This is Rosen Institute's Your Law Firm, where Lee Rosen and Ned Days cover management, marketing, finance, and new technologies for building the practice you deserve. Rosen Institute members received this episode early, as well as exclusive segments on creating a systematic referral process, an answer to a member question about hiring, as well as sessions from our Operations Outline program all about the critically important operations of your firm. Get access to everything you're missing at roseninstitute.com/join. Here's Lee Rosen.
It's good to be with you today from Ljubljana, Slovenia, where the historic center, it's absolutely beautiful, and at least at this time of year, it is packed with tourists. The center of these European capitals always fascinates me. I remember back when we were normal tourists, for lack of a better term, and the center of the city was all that we ever really saw. We would swoop into town for a few days, wander the tourist sites, walk along the river having ice cream and the local beverage of choice, and we'd wander up to a castle for a scenic overlook, and it was all beautiful. And I have these memories of being surprised as we drove to the airport going to our next destination when we would drive by a big mall or an office park. Those drive-by images, they didn't fit with my image of the place as being historic and beautiful and perfect for tourists. I just didn't expect to see a mall. It was a little bit like leaving a Disney theme park and realizing that the park is surrounded by the real lives of real people who work in all those tourist hotels and restaurants and attractions. The touristy parts of so many cities are designed to create memories for us, all fitting a certain ideal for a vacation. And that's all good, but now, traveling the way that we do, and usually living outside of the tourist center, we get a very different impression of the places. Slovenia, it impresses us, both the tourist parts and the rest of the city, but that's not always the case. Sometimes the regular parts, where the real people live, they aren't as awesome as the tourist parts, but they're different from what we're used to at home, and that makes them interesting. In visiting the tourist parts, it's always worth doing, and that's why they attract a lot of tourists, but it's worth being aware that there is the rest of most places, the malls, the schools, the factories, the car dealerships, all of the rest everywhere has these things to see. They just aren't the places that most of us visit on vacation, and I'm not suggesting that they become the focus of your trip, but they're worth a moment. They're a bit of the behind the scenes, the real life, the backstage pass. So on your next trip, as you head to the airport to go home, look up from your phone because the stuff outside the window of your Uber, well, that's something to see as well.
It's time for your tech tip. One last bit of AI homework, at least for the next 3 days or so. We talked about speaking to AI as a potentially more useful way of interacting in some circumstances, but there are times when you are really just after having something transcribed, or you would like to dictate text into an app where you are actually sending the text, like your mail app, Teams, Slack, or text messages. Now, dictation is one of those few technologies where lawyers are probably overrepresented in terms of adoption, and tools like Drag and Dictate have been mainstays in many attorneys' toolboxes for decades now. But in years past, there were usually a lot of compromises. Now, macOS and Windows both include dictation modes that are pretty capable these days, but OpenAI's Whisper dictation model has opened up the door for a new generation of tools that, in conjunction with large language models like ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, and Gemini, are making speaking directly into the apps we are using way more powerful without needing extra plugins or copying and pasting between chatbots. I'm going to cover a few options for modern AI-enabled dictation solutions that have gotten even a dictation-avoidant consumer like me using them. There are a lot of similarities and a few that offer some special extras. Your homework this week is to give one a shot. They all have free plans that make it easy to try them out. The first one is WhisperFlow, available at wisprflow.ai. At first blush, it does what you would expect. You tap a button and it transcribes what you have said into whatever app you are using. But you will immediately notice a couple of things. First, it's generally a lot faster than the built-in dictation solutions on Mac and Windows, and it also does basic formatting for you, like breaking lines, greetings, and bullet points if you are applying to an email. It fixes filler words and mistakes, does punctuation, allows you to start in the middle of a sentence, and a lot more. You don't just get stuck with a giant blob of text that you then have to fix and format manually. Whisperflow also generates a dictionary of personal words and phrases to make sure it gets tricky spellings correct. You can configure these manually, or it will learn as you correct things like name spellings, software with funny spellings, abbreviations, and that kind of thing. It can even adjust the tone in the app you are using, so if you are less formal in messages but more formal in your email, it accounts for that. The Pro version includes something called Command Mode. In Command Mode, you can highlight a block of text and then ask Whisperflow to do anything you want, really. Make it more concise, translate it. It basically runs the prompt of whatever you tell it on the selected text. It also gives you access to Google Search and Perplexity Search with your voice. Just ask it a question and it brings up the search in a browser for you. I'm starting with Whisperflow because it's available on both Mac and Windows, and it sets the stage for the rest of these apps we will discuss. Whisperflow's strengths are that there is minimal configuration, so it's easy to use, it's fast, it's accurate, and the formatting is remarkably good. The free plan includes up to 2,000 words per week with a $12 a month Pro plan that includes that command mode and unlimited words. Next up is Aqua, which you can find at withaqua.com. It's a Mac and Windows dictation app that is very similar to Whisperflow in that it is super quick and very accurate. It also has a dictionary feature to create special spellings for names, products, etc., although they have to be added manually. Whisperflow is the only one doing that automatically on our list, but it wouldn't shock me if that feature becomes pretty standard in the near future. Where Aqua begins to get more interesting is that it will also pull in spelling, formatting, and other context from your current app. If you are in something like email, Slack, or Teams, it can grab what is on the screen to tell how it should behave given what you've dictated. Aqua has a free plan with 1,000 words per month and paid plans starting at $8 a month that include unlimited words, more custom dictionary values, and custom instruction sets to apply prompts to your dictation. Now, I'll also give an honorable mention here to Mac Whisper because it's one a lot of people are familiar with and may already have installed. You can find Mac Whisper at, okay, deep breath, goodsnooze.gumroad.com/L/MacWhisper. This is unsurprisingly a Mac-only app. It is a very popular tool with a free tier that is largely geared toward transcribing existing audio files or letting you speak into the app and transcribing your speech. And it's all done locally on your computer. The paid version is a one-time $49 fee, and it unlocks a lot of features. Batch transcription, a lot of fine-grained controls over speakers and guests in your transcripts, the ability to automatically transcribe a YouTube video by pasting in the link, the ability to use your API key from your AI provider of choice to do cloud transcriptions and chat with the transcript, so get questions answered, have it summarized, basically everything you'd be able to do if you pasted the transcript into ChatGPT and started asking questions. The premium tier also adds a dictation mode like the other apps that we have discussed, and it includes that handy dictionary feature, as well as the ability to set up preset AI prompts that are applied to the transcript of what you say before it is pasted into the app. So you can have presets to do things like create a to-do list from your brain dump, presets to automatically summarize and clean up what you've said, essentially whatever you want. Now, unlike Whisperflow, which handles fancy punctuation by default, Mac Whisper is very plain Jane in its text output, but you can create a preset prompt to handle that punctuation and formatting for you if you are up for tinkering. And speaking of tinkering, Super Whisper, which you can find at superwhisper.com, surprisingly spelled exactly as you would expect, is the option for the power users. This one too is Mac only. It covers a lot of the ground we have seen already. You speak, it types, dictionary of custom words, blah blah, blah, blah. Now, we talked about those preset prompts in Mac Whisper that allowed you to run a prompt on what you said before it is pasted. And Super Whisper can do the same thing and comes with some great presets, but in addition to whatever you speak, it can also pull in context from what's on the screen in the active application, be that names, addresses, or other text, whatever is in your clipboard, and whatever audio is playing on your Mac. So it can listen in on recordings you are playing, video calls you're on. It can incorporate the data on your clipboard or screen so that you can essentially use it like the voice mode in your favorite AI chatbot without having to copy and paste screenshots or anything else. The free plan is probably the most generous. I don't think there are any limits on just raw dictation done locally on your machine. The Pro plan starts at about $9 per month and includes transcription of audio and video files. You can bring your own API key for cloud transcription and AI models and much more. There's also a lifetime license available if you want to go that route. Super Whisper is going to require the most setup and tweaking of the options we discussed, as opposed to WhisperFlow, which is great if you just need super clean, well-formatted dictation right out of the box. But Super Whisper is also going to be the most powerful. So pick the one that works on your device, give the free plan a whirl, and see if this isn't just a better way to reply to the million things begging for your attention every day, but maybe even a better way of using AI in general. I'm Ned Days, and that's your tech tip.
And now for your moment of concise advice. Over the years of writing the Friday File and recording these podcasts, I've shared a lot about my experience practicing law and later running Rosen Institute while traveling full-time. Early on, I was still in the trenches of the legal work, and I would take client calls from hotel rooms and handle court filings from coffee shops with spotty Wi-Fi. But eventually, I sold the law firm and shifted to running Rosen Institute full-time, same laptop, different Zoom calls, and naturally, this remote work lifestyle piqued some interest. I've had a steady trickle of lawyers reach out over the years, curious about how I make this sort of life work. They see what I'm doing and they think, well, if Lee can do it, I can probably do it too. And let me be clear, they are not wrong. I'm not doing anything special. I'm not some superhuman productivity monk. I'm just another lawyer doing typical lawyer things, drafting and marketing and managing, except that I'm doing them from Rome or Japan or wherever my suitcase happens to be at the moment. It's absolutely possible for you to do this if this is something that you want to make work. But I will tell you, there is a giant asterisk when I say it is absolutely possible. You see, I've been at this for a decade. I've had the benefit of watching how this story plays out for a fair number of lawyers who've attempted to do what it is that I'm doing, and some of them, they have pulled it off absolutely beautifully. Others, they haven't, and they hit some turbulence in the process, and eventually they stop traveling. Some return to their home country and practice law full-time, and a few that I've known have given up on the practice of law entirely. But I think I have figured out what it is that separates the success stories from the folks who didn't make things work out. I think I know at this point what it is that's going on, but I will tell you, I think the lawyers who go through it, they rarely see this for themselves. I suspect I see it because I've had so many of these conversations. The lawyers, when they explain why things didn't work out, they blame an isolated aspect of their situation. It varies from lawyer to lawyer, but they universally believe that the circumstance that drove them to give up on their dream was something external, a change in the market or a change in their practice area. Maybe it was something to do with their family, but it's normally something other than themselves that they blame for not being able to make things work. But the pattern that I have observed is more universal, and it really has very little to do with the factor that these lawyers believe led them to give up on their chosen lifestyle. So what's up with these folks? In almost every case that I have seen, I think that it comes down to two things. Number one, the folks who didn't make it work, they stopped marketing. And number two, they stopped managing. Sometimes it's both, but usually it starts with the marketing. Marketing is the first thing to die when somebody starts working remotely from somewhere else on the planet. Why does that happen? Why do the lawyers stop marketing when they hit the road? Well, I think it's because marketing is hard. It exposes us. It invites rejection. It requires daily emotional labor. When you're in Paris sipping coffee at the cafe, it's easy to feel like you're building this dream life. But when your marketing pipeline dries up and there's no marketing system humming along in the background, well, you're not building a dream. You're quietly preparing for a very expensive flight back home. Marketing while traveling, it's about consistency, but it's also about resilience. So many lawyers just hate marketing because it demands that we keep showing up even when the results aren't instant, even when we're not getting the positive feedback that we like in order to keep going. Travel does not make that easier. In fact, travel makes it harder. New time zones, disrupted routines, slower internet, it all adds friction to getting the marketing work done, and we are not built for friction. We're built to follow precedent, not to push envelopes. When the going gets tough, when it comes to marketing, a lot of lawyers just stop, and that's when things really begin to unravel if you're in this travel lifestyle. And then it gets worse. The management slips. Managing a remote team, it is its own beast. You're no longer bumping into people in the hallway. You can't correct with a 30-second office chat. Everything must become more intentional, more structured. And let's be honest, it all becomes a little more annoying when you're working from far away. You're sitting in that Parisian cafe, and the last thing you want to do is have a difficult management conversation with an employee. Holding people accountable, keeping them in sync, giving feedback, enforcing standards. It's all hard to do in person, and at a distance, it requires a lot more. It requires systems and technology and leadership skills that most of us were never taught in law school. We didn't learn them along the way, and many of us simply haven't grown into those skills. The mistake that many nomadic lawyers make is assuming that remote management will require less effort, but the fact is that it requires more effort. Remote work requires that you dig out of a hole of invisibility. You have to work harder to stay connected, to maintain morale, to keep the office culture from drifting in the wrong direction. Failing to stay focused on the marketing and on the management, it's trouble when you're working in a traditional office setting, but when you go remote, when you take to the road, when you do this digital nomad thing, well, letting go of the marketing and the management, it is big, big trouble. And then heads go down in the sand. We hide from the trouble, and the business, it glides downward. And if that glide happens to coincide with something unexpected, like a shift in your area of the law, or a Google algorithm update that kills your SEO traffic, or trouble in your personal life, or a recession that tightens your clients' wallets, well, suddenly the business is in free fall. And now you're trying to recover without fuel, without focus, without energy. The business, it's going to crash. And it all starts with that lack of focus on the marketing and on the management. And that is not a good scenario. Do not let it happen to you. If you want this lifestyle to work, you can't run away from the office. You have to run toward the work. You have to run toward better management and better marketing, better management of yourself to make the critical systems keep working so that you're bringing in new clients, so that your team keeps rolling. You've got to take your old ways and adapt them to this new lifestyle. You can't simply fade away. You can't simply stop paying attention. You can't simply get absorbed into that Parisian cafe. Now, I will tell you, there are things that I have done and things that I have seen others do that work. Things like daily team meetings, one-on-ones, a cadence of communication. That's what makes management keep working. And marketing rituals, production of podcasts like this one, newsletters that go out on time, network nurturing, all of that is essential to making the marketing happen like it did while you were working back in your hometown. All of this, it is absolutely non-negotiable. The marketing, the management, it must happen. The focus can't simply be on the surroundings and on the coffee. It's got to be on the marketing and on the management. The truth is, it's hard to stay focused in an office. And when you try to focus and there's a beach 100 feet away from your laptop, it's incredibly difficult. This lifestyle, it demands more discipline, more focus, more effort, more energy, not less. You can do it, but You've got to have the right expectations. You can only do it if you're honest with yourself about what it actually takes. The dream, it's real. The views, they are incredible. The flexibility, it's worth every ounce of effort. But it's not about escaping the hard parts of your business. It's not about running away. It's about doubling down on focus. It's about confronting these pieces of the business more directly than ever, because if you don't, you are going to be in a tough spot. You're going to be flying home with a lot less than you left with. So if you're looking to live and to work remotely from some exotic destination, you can absolutely do it, but you cannot let the marketing and the management slip. You've got to stay focused, and that is your moment of concise advice. Wrapping up from Slovenia, thanks for spending a few minutes with me and Ned today. We hope you have a great weekend and an even better week next week. Keep plugging away, moving forward, and getting things done. You're on the right track. You'll get there, I promise. We're all in this together, and together we build better practices through better marketing, better management, and better technology. Until next time, I'm Lee Rosen.
Thanks for listening to Your Law Firm. Subscribe to the Friday File at roseninstitute.com and join thousands of lawyers focused on working on, instead of in their practices. You'll find safe, successful, actionable approaches for transforming your firm. Sign up for free at roseninstitute.com.